So for the person who is helping a veteran with an extreme TBI, how can they know if the care that they're providing rises to this level of sort of regular aid and attendance?
Well, probably the best lens to focus on this through is, could this veteran live by him or herself and function? You know, can they feed themselves? Can they cook their meals without burning the house down? Can they, get dressed every day without special assistance? Can they drive an automobile? Can the veteran, despite his TBI or her TBI, still do the basic things you have to be able to do to live on your own in the community? And that's the best definition that really exists.
And when it comes to, I guess, proving that absent that care, they would need to be in assisted living, where does the rubber meet the road in terms of how do you communicate that effectively to the VA? Is it all medical documentation or?
Well, I think this requires both medical documentation and factual documentation. But one of the things that the government does, although not in the VA context, is to be able to make an assessment of whether people qualify for nursing home care.
Welcome to the Victory Over VA podcast, a podcast about empowering veterans to overcome denied disability claims. Each week, we deliver critical insights to help you understand the disability process, veterans' benefits, and how to take control of your legal rights. Now here's your host, Attorney Francis Jackson.
Welcome to Victory Over VA. If you're a veteran struggling with the VA's disability system or just want to make sure you're getting the benefits you've earned, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update that could change your life. I'm Christian Terrison, here with renowned veterans disability attorney Francis Jackson of Jackson and MacNichol. Jack has dedicated his career to helping veterans like you win the benefits you deserve, recovering millions of dollars for thousands of heroes. This podcast isn't just for veterans navigating the system, though. It's for their families, friends, and anyone else who wants to stand shoulder to shoulder with those who served. So stick around, because we're here to make sure you get the support you need. Now, today's episode is on a relatively narrow topic, but a very important one, and that is SMC-T. Now, as many things with the VA are, it could just be a jumble of letters as far as a layperson is concerned, but what is entailed in those four letters, SMC-T?
Sure. Well, the first three, SMC, stand for Special Monthly Compensation. And what the VA has figured out is that in addition to their general rating system for various service-connected conditions, there are certain kinds of injuries or losses that require veterans to seek higher levels of care and assistance than others. And for those people, there are benefits in addition to the 100% rating, which is normally the maximum.
Okay.
So that's SMC generically. Now, T is a special rating, one of the highest paid ratings, and it is only for those veterans who have a traumatic brain injury and whose traumatic brain injury is of great severity, requiring special assistance.
Okay. And what is the difference in benefits between, say, a regular 100% and somebody who's receiving SMC-T?
Oh, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's significant. SMC-T is around $9,000 a month.
Wow.
Regular 100% is around $4,000 a month. I mean,
Okay.
it's a big deal.
Okay. Well, and so why did the VA create this special category just for TBI?
Well, it's not just TBI. It's TBI with additional limitations.
Okay.
And specifically, to be eligible for SMC-T, first off, you have to have a service-connected TBI. That's step one. But once you get beyond that, you have to show that the TBI imposes such significant limitations on the veteran that he or she would otherwise require institutional care if they weren't getting a high level of care at home, essentially.
So this is for truly profound symptoms.
Right. This is someone who would otherwise require
Sort of.
hospitalization or nursing home or assisted living or some kind of institutional setting support in order to function if they weren't getting lots of special support at home.
Sure. And so I know the term is typically regular aid and attendance. So for the person who is helping a veteran with an extreme TBI, how can they know if the care that they're providing rises to this level of sort of regular aid and attendance?
Well, probably the best lens to focus on this through is, could this veteran live by him or herself and function? Can they feed themselves? Can they cook their meals without burning the house down? Can they, get dressed every day without special assistance? Can they drive an automobile? Can the veteran, despite his TBI or her TBI, still do the basic things you have to be able to do to live on your own in the community? That's the best definition that really exists.
Okay. And when it comes to, I guess, proving that absent that care, they would need to be in assisted living, where does the rubber meet the road in terms of how do you communicate that effectively to the VA? Is it all medical documentation or?
Well, I think this requires both medical documentation and factual documentation. But one of the things that the government does, although not in the VA context, is to be able to make an assessment of whether people qualify for nursing home care. And offhand, I think they call it the Quimby program, but don't hold me to that. I don't do enough of that outside of VA to really remember the nomenclature. But there is a specific analysis that you can have a nurse do to determine if someone qualifies for nursing home care. And I think that in particular would be very powerful evidence. But even if the person doesn't qualify for a nursing home level of care, which is a pretty high standard, if they would require at least assisted living, I think they qualify for SMC-T. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to show that they would qualify under Medicaid for a nursing home placement, but that, as I said, I think would be very powerful. But it's really, these things are also fact-driven. All you have to show is that the veteran can't function on his or her own without special assistance. And there are many ways you can show that. I mean, you can have medical documentation. If, for example, the person was in rehab for a period of time and was discharged home with support, the medical folks who made that determination could probably easily support the necessary level of evidence. But you can, with just non-medical evidence, just specifying all the things that other people have to do for the veteran. Can the person eat on their own? Can they make meals? Can they get dressed? Can they do laundry? All of the basic, what the medical folks abbreviate as ADLs, activities of daily living. If there are significant activities of daily living that this veteran can no longer perform for themselves, they probably qualify for SMC-T. So it's really a kind of a step-by-step assessment of the common ADLs.
So, the average family who's supporting a veteran with a profound TBI, they're not, going through the regulations chapter and verse. They're more concerned with getting by day to day.
Right.
Will the regional office consider SMC-T when somebody's making a claim for TBI?
Well, they're supposed to, but in all honesty, SMC-T is rare enough that I think it would probably get overlooked by the regional office in a fair number of cases where the person would otherwise qualify, so long as the person was actually being cared for at home and there wasn't a demand on the VA to help place them in a nursing home setting or something like that, where they would really have to very directly focus on the issue.
Right. Where there'd be, a paper trail, and
Right.
they would, yeah. I understand the distinction there. If it's a family providing care, that oftentimes goes undocumented, and it
Yep.
might even go unremarked in
Yep.
an application.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, and would you say that's one of the places where an outside representative, an expert representative, whether an attorney or somebody at a VSO would be helpful?
Oh yes, I think spotting the potential SMC benefits often requires specialized assistance, whether it's from a VSO or an accredited representative or an attorney, whoever it is, but someone with significant experience in the system who would recognize, the little light bulb would come on and they'd say, oh, we should look at SMC here.
When you were mentioning the sort of litany of daily living tasks, it's my understanding that sort of the safety consideration is a significant part of that as well.
I think that's true. One of the things that you see, I don't know how best to phrase this, but there are a fair number of people with TBI and other conditions as well, but TBI especially, who can sort of function. They're not sitting there staring into space and drooling, but if you leave them on their own, they can't quite get it all right. It's like you, I'm sure, saw the news around the death of Gene Hackman, and Hackman had dementia, and they said that when they found him, it appeared that he had starved to death. He simply wasn't competent to figure out how to feed himself. Now, you don't have to be at that level, but we've all heard of or known of people who, they forget to turn off the stove, and the pot boils dry, and they burn it on, and if they're not lucky, they create a fire, that sort of thing. There are many, I shouldn't say many, there are a significant number of people with TBI who can more or less function, but periodically the safety piece is going to come back and bite them. They're going to fall apart on something critically unsafe.
It's sort of the 85% of what is necessary works out, but it's that last 15% where the danger lies. And I guess
or even the last 5%.
Sure. And I guess would you say that those cases, like fringe cases almost, would be where SMC-T is most applies?
Well, I think it's where it's most often overlooked.
Yeah, where expertise is most needed, I guess.
Exactly.
Because if, again, as you mentioned, if somebody is profoundly disabled by a TBI, there's going to be a huge paper trail, there will be,
Yep.
Other governmental involvement in their care, things like that.
Yeah, those folks, that's going to get picked up. It's the people who are right on the edge where they can mostly function, but not quite. Those are the ones who it's going to get missed a lot.
And what advice, I guess, would you give to a family supporting a veteran in that situation who gets scheduled for a C&P examination? C&P examinations are typically relatively brief. There's no guarantee the examiner has reviewed the entirety of the record. And in an instance like you're describing, somebody with a TBI that makes them a danger, some of the time could probably sit through a half hour or an hour with a medical provider and
They'd
convince them otherwise.
They'd be lucky to get 15 minutes, but I take your point.
I'm giving the...
I take your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in those settings, there are really only a few things you can do. One is for the caregiver to go to the C&P exam and to explain to the doctor what some of the problems are. Now, whether the doctor will treat that as credible and will include it in the report, who knows? But there's no harm in trying, as the fellow says. A second thing that you can do is you can submit a written statement. The VA has kind of a general statement and support form, 4138 I think is the form number, that you can submit a written statement, and in that statement you as the caregiver could explain, these are the problem areas, these are the places where the person can't function, where they have to have assistance. But anyway, that's another way to go at it. The third way you can go at it is if the person's been evaluated by some neuropsychological testing or something like that, you can submit those results. I mean, there are multiple ways to get there, but I think the more that you do, the more likely it is that the VA is going to take the question of SMC-T seriously.
Earlier I'd asked about whether the regional office would necessarily consider SMC-T for family helping a veteran who wants to ensure that SMC-T is considered. What steps would they need to take in either making that claim, or if there's already service connection for the TBI, trying to get SMC-T on top of that?
Well, if it's an initial claim, they can raise it right along with the TBI. There's no problem there. You can specifically ask for SMC-T.
Right along with the conditions in the same 526 EZ form, just make a note.
Just include it. Write it in there. In the situation where the person's already been granted for TBI and you want to raise it, I think probably the way to make sure that the VA has to focus on it is to file a claim, either a 526 EZ or a supplemental claim, depending on the particular facts, specifically raising SMC-T.
Right. And just a final question, we're almost out of time for today, but at what point in the process does it make the most sense to get an attorney or other expert representative involved for an SMC-T claim?
Well, what I typically tell people is go ahead and file the claim. If the benefit you're after is granted, no issue. If the VA turns you down, then if it's a complex claim like SMC-T, I would strongly recommend that you get expert assistance, whether it's an attorney or a VSO who's handled a lot of these, or an accredited representative. I'm not fussy about the format, but somebody with expertise should help you if you've been turned down.
Yeah, someone who knows the system and knows. Yeah.
Particularly with SMC-T, that's a level that most VA raters don't often see, unless they happen to be at an RO, which is at one of the medical facilities that specializes in dementia or related kinds of claims. They just aren't going to see enough of these that it's going to come easily to them.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode of Victory Over VA. Please be sure to like and subscribe and join us again next week.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Victory Over VA podcast. Make sure to visit our website, veteransbenefits.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, you might want to check out our free consultation to see how we can help you with your denied claim. Simply go to veteransbenefits.com and fill out the form. You fought for us. Now let us fight for you. And be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.